I'm just sitting here contemplating life, wondering if I'll ever be this happy again. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Coffee with Katie. As you can see, I have a LaCroix today. It's a limoncello flavored one. I have to do a lot of pre-filming today because I have some plans the next couple of weekends and it's going to be hard to film on top of it. So I decided that because I had several videos planned out that I wanted to do, that I was just going to do some pre-filming. So if my makeup and stuff looks very similar, that's why. Sorry, not sorry. Gotta do what I gotta do. Also why I'm not having like a third cup of coffee today. I'm having a LaCroix. So today's video is going to be a review of one of my most anticipated releases of 2021 because I got an ARC of it. Was very pumped about that. There's a video about that I will link. But the review is going to be for Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber. I received this book right before my birthday, which was awesome because it was like a little mini birthday present and I could not stop reading this, couldn't put it down. And as I said, this is one of my most anticipated releases and I have an ARC. So this book doesn't actually come out until September 28th, 2021. So we've got a couple of months before this hits the shelves. So I also want to be careful how much I share about this. So I'm going to try to be more vague in this review. But I did want to let you guys know all my thoughts on it, especially because I'm such a huge fan of Caraval. And I'll kind of get into some of the details of the book that even I don't even know because this is an unfinished copy. And so without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, so the first thing I want to point out is in my copy, my ARC copy, first off, this is a beautifully sized paperback and it's floppy. It was so enjoyable to read and just hold because it just like flops open. It was great. Anyway, so obviously this is the US edition cover, but it's going to be a hardcover when it's released, obviously. But some of the things, if you didn't know, when you open up an ARC, so like the inside flap will have blurbs instead of whatever else would be there. And some of the title pages and stuff are the same, but if you keep going, it'll have blank pages. So like this is where the map will be in the finished copy. And there's like some grammatical errors or just different things because this isn't completely edited. This isn't a finished copy. You will get that later. So I'm kind of interested. I don't know if I'll reread it necessarily, but I'm kind of interested to flip through it when I get it to see if anything's vastly different or has changed. And I do believe she is writing book 2 at this moment. So if I was to estimate when the next one would come out, it hasn't been announced or a release date has not been announced. So, you know, this is just a guess. It would be September 2022, which is really sad because that means I'm going to have to wait a little over a year for book 2. And I don't know how many books are going to be in this series, if it's going to be 2, if it's going to be more, but I hope that she keeps writing them because these are so fun. And another thing I wanted to mention, if you remember me talking about the Caraval books, so I have them back here. This is the US editions and the UK editions of the Caraval series. And for the UK editions, something that they do is like a pre-order gift is the UK edition hardcovers will have secret covers. And I went over all of the secret covers in a video. That will be up on my channel later. But basically the UK has these secret foil stamps on their UK hardcovers for the Caraval series. And there's like a set of like 4 or 5 different ones you can get. All of them are different and they're only in the first print run. So if you don't pre-order them, there's no guarantee you'll get them. And they are doing the same for the Once Upon a Broken Heart UK hardcover editions. So if you missed out on getting these, or you just want to make sure you get a nice edition of Once Upon a Broken Heart, I would go ahead and pre-order it. Any UK edition works for this. Book Depository, Waterstones, you know, Blackwell's, whatever. Wherever, Forbidden Planet, wherever you order UK editions of Once Upon a Broken Heart, as long as it has this cover, which I'll insert here, you should be good as long as it's a hardcover. And I believe that they discontinue the hardcovers once the paperbacks start coming out. So it's kind of like a collector's edition almost, even though it's not, but it's just like first edition status. And for the US edition, the Barnes & Noble special edition, which has this pink cover, which I'll insert here, it also has a secret stamp. It's only one, there's not like 5 different ones, there's only one, but that's the like fancy US edition. So if you're interested in that, you can also pre-order the Barnes & Noble US edition. It just kind of depends on what you would like, but just wanted to make you guys aware of that in case you wanted a copy that had something special on it. All right, so let's get into this review. Got my trusty reading journal, although to be honest, I didn't write in this a lot when I was reading it because I just didn't want to stop reading it. Okay, so first I'm going to read you the description of what this book is about. And it says, Once Upon a Broken Heart is the first book in a new series about love, curses, and the lengths that people will go to for happily ever after. Evangeline Fox was raised in her beloved father's curiosity shop, where she grew up on legends about immortals, like the tragic Prince of Hearts. She knows his powers are mythic, his kiss is worth dying for, and that bargains with him rarely end well. But when Evangeline learns that the love of her life is about to marry another, she becomes desperate enough to offer the Prince of Hearts whatever he wants in exchange for his help to stop the wedding. The prince only asks for 3 kisses. But after Evangeline's first promised kiss, she learns that the Prince of Hearts wants far more from her than she's pledged. And he has plans for Evangeline that will either end in the greatest happily ever after or the most exquisite tragedy. So that right there kind of gives you a little bit of a snippet of what the book is about. So this book is following Evangeline Fox. She's the main character in this book, and we follow her, her stepsister, her stepmother. That's kind of the family unit she's in. Her parents have passed away, and that's kind of where the book starts. And she's, like the description said, she's going to search out the Prince of Hearts, who is Jax from Caraval, to try to stop the wedding of her one true love. But as she makes a deal with the Prince of Hearts, things kind of get skewed and it becomes something she did not expect. And through a series of some circumstances and her trying to figure out how to repair this, she ends up going to the Magnificent North, which is where this book is set for most of it. Which is really cool because you get to see a whole different part of the world in the Caraval universe. And it's equally magical, but it's different. Like, all of it's very different. So it's like, I would say it's more Nordic, it's colder, obviously because it's the North. And there's just all these things that tie into that and how it makes that location much different than where you are in Caraval, where it's kind of more warm and summery. So as she's exploring the Magnificent North, she gets tied up in this circumstance where there's high risk for broken hearts. And as I said, this is the first book in a series, so the story's not wrapped up in this one. There is kind of a cliffhanger where you don't know what's going to happen, you don't know who's to blame. There's quite a few mystery elements where bad or sinister things are happening and you don't know who's to blame. You don't know if it's like one of these several different characters. And while one is resolved, some still aren't. And there's also an underlying magical element that you don't really understand because it's just barely getting explored in the first one, and it will obviously be a plot point for the further books. So that's kind of what you're looking at when you're going into this story and kind of how it unfolds. But again, I don't want to give too much detail and I don't want to say too much because this does come out in a couple months. I don't want to spoil anything for anyone. So my thoughts on this book. This book brought me back to the magical world of Caraval, and I loved every second of it. I really missed the magical atmosphere that Caraval provided and the whimsy of it, but also there's a lot of like darker elements that come into play in the Caraval series, and I loved those two things combined. So I really missed being in that world, and I felt like this was able to bring me back into that world, but it's not the same story and it's not the same place. It's a very different location, it's a very different atmosphere, but equally magical, which I just really enjoyed a lot. There was a lot going on in this story, like a surprising amount, and there was a lot of new things to uncover. And I love how over-the-top magical the Caraval universe feels, and this book is no exception. I know some people don't like that, and some people do not like the Caraval series in general, but for me, it's a certain type of magical and whimsy that isn't too much. Like, I just love how it makes me feel. It makes me feel really happy. It makes me feel like it's a fairy tale and like a dream. A lot of fantasy books that have magic elements in it are very dark, and I love dark stories. I really do. I love vicious. I love like war in books, but there's something about the Caraval universe and the magic and just the way that Stephanie Garber writes it, it just makes me feel so happy, which isn't normally something I gravitate towards. I think because I just click with it so much, it just makes me really happy, and I just love getting more of it. I don't know how to explain it super well because it's usually not my type. It's just got such a, I'm gonna say magical so much, but it has such magic and whimsy and beautiful elements to this story. And it's not the level of whimsy like Alice in Wonderland, because I did actually read Alice in Wonderland a couple years ago and I hated it. I hated it because nothing made sense to me and it was like too whimsical. And when it gets into realms of too whimsical, or I don't really understand the plot or what's going on, then I don't like it. And if it's too depressing and like nothing good is happening ever and there's nothing to root for, I don't like that either. And I feel like this is the perfect balance of whimsy and magic, but also a plot line to drive it forward, and also fear elements of things still being dangerous. I just love the way the Caraval universe feels and how Stephanie Garber writes it. And actually, so obviously I loved this book. I loved it so much that when I got to the last few chapters, I actually put it down and put it off for like a week because I didn't want it to end. And I knew as soon as I finished it, I would have no answer in sight of when the next book is coming out. So I'm kind of like having a book hangover right now and just really wanting the next book, but I know I can't have the next book because the first one's not even released yet, which is the bittersweet thing about getting an arc of a book you really want and really love. I also really loved following more of Jack's story and getting a lot more of Jack's. And you do get to find out some answers, again, not spoiling anything, but you do get to find out some answers a little bit after the events of Caraval. I can't wait to see how the story continues, but also dying because I need it now. And I think one of the things I like about this world and the Caraval universe in general is I love how magical it is and how fun it is, but also all of the dark twists it can have. And it can have all the deaths and the black magic sides as well. I love the fates and how sinister and yet fun this atmosphere can get and the juxtaposition of the two. And I don't know how it works, but the juxtaposition of the sinister and the magical and whimsical elements just really work for me. And it's just really cool how they play in together. And I think I mentioned this a little bit before, but it's also just really cool to see a new location of this world. There were some parts of this book that made me laugh. There were parts of this book that had my head spinning. I felt like there were so many different twists and turns. Even from the beginning, you're like, where is this going? How is this continuing? What is happening? How is this going to resolve itself? And I felt like I had a little bit of whiplash, but in the best way possible. This book definitely had a different feel than the original Caraval trilogy, and a lot was going on, like I said, and a lot of different things were introduced, but it also ties into the Fate world, and now there seems to be like these different mythical beings. We don't know what they necessarily are yet. And I think it kind of keeps you guessing a little bit. Overall, I gave this book 5 stars. And I will be completely honest, I was going to love this book no matter what because I loved Caraval and I really wanted more of this world. And I knew it was about Jax. That in itself was amazing. And I knew I was going to love it. So is it the best piece of literature in the world? Probably not. But I loved it so much. I had such a fun time with this. Again, these books give me a feeling that no other books have so far, where I'm just so happy and it's magical, but it's sinister at the same time. I've just never really found another series that makes me feel the way these do, and this was no exception. I think if you love the Caraval series, you will love this, but I do want to reiterate that it does feel different. It feels a little bit different. Again, you're kind of pulled and twisted in a lot of different ways, especially in the beginning. You're kind of trying to piece it together as you go, but it still has the wonderful whimsy of the original. It still has the wonderful whimsy that only this world can provide. And if you really like the fate elements of the original trilogy and you felt like you didn't get enough of them, I think this series is going to delve into that a little bit more. As you know, Jax is a big part of this, and he's not the only one that you get a glimpse of, which is great because I love that. I feel like I could talk about this book all day, but not without spoiling it. And I really don't want to spoil it for anyone, but I would highly recommend you read this book. Again, this comes out in September, so I would go ahead and pick it up when you can, or pre-order it now because that really helps out the author. So yeah, really fun ride, but prepare yourselves for heartbreak. Please let me know if you're planning on picking up this book, or if you love the Caraval series as much as I do. And also let me know if you would like me to do a more spoilery chat once the book is released and people have had a chance to read it, and I will totally do a video like that for you because I would love to talk to you guys about this book. I was so thankful that I was able to get an arc of this and read it in advance, even though, like I said, it broke my heart a little bit. So go grab your copy of this, come back to this video once you've read it, let me know what you thought, and if you hate this book, that's fine, don't talk to me. Just kidding, you can argue with me if you want to, but I'm still gonna love it. Also, let me know which cover you prefer, if you prefer the US or the UK edition, because I love them both for different reasons, but I would like to know what you guys think. So that was my very vague, very gushing review of Once Upon a Broken Heart. It was so much fun. I enjoyed it so much. It was so nostalgic and comforting to go back into Caraval, and I can't wait for the next one. So that is it for today's video. If you like this video, go ahead and like it, subscribe if you want to. Let me know if there's other books you would like me to review, or if you want to see me do more book reviews. Stay safe and caffeinated. Bye.